Tana got grown-up headphones for Christmas. I'm a little jealous. I have not gotten them. It's on my list still of something I would like to have. But on that note, we survived the holidays. You with your kids, me with my family. Any call outs about the
hmm
holidays before we go full Enneagram?
I think every year that I get older, and maybe this work has something to do with it, right? But I just get a little bit more accepting of like everyone else. And like it just does, and I just don't get super easily triggered in some environments anymore. So there's, it was interesting this year in particular because I like wanted to stay longer and like have my kids like have these memories. And I get like a little funny. I'm super close to my grandma who's going to be 90 in like just a couple weeks. And she like just having her around on the holidays and she's like very involved with my kids. I just like found myself being a little bit more patient of everything. Don't get me wrong, there were moments, because if Landon were listening to this right now, he'd be like, "Could you pop off like 10 times at those kids?" But overall, I think it was good. My kids are growing up in an environment that was very different than mine. So it's interesting to also battle the like gift giving and the expectations that like they have versus what I had. And not and my parents never skimped on Chris. That wasn't a thing. Like that was actually when I got like the most. But they were just like tearing into shit on Christmas morning. And I remember stopping them and being like, whoa, like we're gonna slow down here. We're gonna look at what we got. We're gonna appreciate it before we move on to the next thing. Like we're just gonna take a beat, right? And Landon's like, yeah, God, you guys are so spoiled. He was just being an eight, having a
Yes.
moment. And they're just still in when I was like uber stressed, just getting everything ready and the hustle and the bustle of it all. My husband's like, you have to remember that. So with my oldest, he's 7. We only have a couple more years of this, like magic, before it turns into like, I just want money or I want like so it was a little bit about like it was chaos sandwiched with some gratitude and some slowdown and then more chaos.
I loved when you posted their little creatures that crawl up the wall.
Oh my God. Dude, the wall gecko is
Yeah.
an absolute monstrosity. And between that and by like my kids got like a couple Nerf guns and like Nerf guns have really come a long way. Like a long way. One of these Nerf guns, it has like battery. It's got a battery in it that you recharge. And by the way, you freaking recharge everything now. There are so many random things plugged into my house in random places because I don't have enough outlets for all this shit. It's like, oh, there's remote control bumper cars over in that corner, in that random corner. Just just it is what it is. And there's remote controlled geckos on the counter and there's Nerf guns that are being charged, and these things are like, of course, my husband, my 3rd child, is playing with these things, and he's, like, finding me with them. I got a welt.
It's like a Nerf gun has become like a paintball gun
It
level.
was like an airsoft gun. I was wearing
Yeah.
clothes, and I had a welt.
Have you seen those TikToks of the grandma who hunts with her grandchildren in the house with the Nerf gun? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like little
It's
grandchildren, by the way. These are like adult grandchildren and their grandma.
it's
But so
wild. It's
yeah.
wild. So, yeah, I mean, toys are different now. They just and there's these silly things, like, they're called I'm pretty sure they're called fugglers because they are ugly. Like, I should have brought one in here to show you. They're these stuffed animals that have, like, what looks like real teeth, but some, like, don't have all of their teeth. Like, one of them has, like, 3, but they look like real teeth. They're
Oh,
ugly. They're so ugly. And Keegan sleeps with these creepy things every night now. wild. Toys are weird.
Toys are weird. I yeah, I made it through 2025 without a Labubu. Did you make it through 2025 without a
Nope.
Labubu?
Keegan got one. My
Keegan got
oldest got
one.
one. He got one from my sister. It's a Coca-Cola one, and he's been obsessed with it, carrying it around. Daycare was open today, thank God. He tried to go to daycare with it. I'm like, dude, that thing is white. First of all, do you know how many pairs? I counted them this morning because I didn't have a pair of mittens to send with my child. I have 6 pairs of mittens that only have the right hand. If he loses them in, only the left hand,
Is he
which makes
left-handed?
no sense. No, he's not left-handed. Like, what?
You're gonna have to get the mittens that go either way, right? Like where they're just the same shape, so they're left or
Or,
right.
yeah. Or like, is there like some invention that I could think of that would make me a millionaire? That like, I don't know. I don't know. It's
When you were a kid, did you have the mittens that had the string that went
no,
through the sleeve?
no, never had those. Did have the clip-on ones, but I was just complaining about this to my mom the other day, and she's like, "You do know that that was you." And I'm like, "Oh shit. I don't remember that." I would forget stuff ever. I was very forgetful.
So you're saying it's genetic.
Scatterbrained is the term she used. I'm like, "Yeah, fine,
That's
whatever."
funny. Before we introduce everything with this podcast topic, I do want to just say that on the adult side of the Christmas house, Aaron and I, on Christmas Eve night, drank 2 bottles of wine and ordered Ancestry DNA kits. That was for some reason in our whatever decided that that's what we needed to do for Christmas. So we don't have the results back for them yet, but we'll have to circle
Oh
back
my
on that.
God.
But that was like the adult Christmas conversation on the couch.
Like what
Yeah.
brand? Like
But
23andMe or like,
no, like the actual Ancestry ones.
oh, like the Ancestry.com ones?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see
I've
how that
always
turns
wanted
out.
to do that, but the preface thinks like a 6. I'm like, they're gonna take my DNA and I'm gonna be framed for a crime one day.
I'm kind of
But
like
I didn't commit.
that you didn't commit. Well, it's all saliva, by like you spit into a thing, send it in.
Listen,
So it's not blood.
I've seen the Bourne
But
Ultimatum. They can erase people.
I've heard that too, where people are like, "Ooh, but then who owns your results?" and blah blah. I'm like, I am not that interesting or important
Oh, I don't
for
know
it
about
to
the
be a
ownership.
thing. So, like,
I
I don't
just go
know.
true crime with it. It's gonna be like on a day where I don't have an alibi. Or like back to the forgetfulness. I truly can't remember where I was or what I did.
Right. Something you did in 1999.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing that we should talk about. I saw Casey's post on Instagram today that the song, so this episode will come out in the new year.
Yes.
The song that was number 1 on your 10th birthday is
Yes.
like your song for 2026. So I looked it up. Mine is Music by Madonna.
Oh.
I looked at my sister's and I had to send it to her because hers was End of the Road by Boys to Men. That seems much more.
I looked up mine. Mine is Black and White by Michael Jackson. Black or
Ooh,
White by Michael Jackson.
that's a good one. My mom's was some song by the Partridge Family. Landon's was some Ja Rule, Jennifer Lopez, bop. I'm real. That's what it was, which is so
Oh yeah.
8. I love that for him.
Okay. Well, we're like 10 minutes in and we haven't introduced this podcast. And so if you're new here and you've stuck through 10 minutes of Christmas stories and songs for 2026, which we'll get back to, welcome to our podcast called Enneagram Adventure. We appreciate you being here. We're starting a new year. So we're going to do more of the same, maybe some new stuff. But anyway, welcome. Tana and I are both IEQ 9 certified coaches with that Enneagram tool. And we love to talk about life and development and self-awareness and all the things through the lens of the Enneagram. Anything you want to add before we keep going?
Well, we're going to talk about relationships today. So I think the disclaimer of behavior versus core motivation is a good reminder, as always. So The Enneagram tool measures core motivation rather than your behavior, which is different than other personality assessments that you may have heard of. So that's why it's interesting. That's why we love it. And as you think through kind of the lens that we're talking about with each number in relationships, remember about that core motivation for each number. And we'll try to remember to maybe call it out before we go into each one. Maybe that would be helpful for this one.
Yeah, we'll try to call out at least the high level motivation for each number as we talk about them in relationships. Yeah, because that's our topic. We want to talk about Enneagram in relationships, and I think that's like very general. Maybe we'll get more specific as we go, but I don't want to commit to a specific, you know, thread in terms of the Enneagram in relationships because it's more fun when we just see how it goes.
Yeah,
So,
that's fair.
yeah.
We'll probably have some stories that come up with this one. So hopefully we get through all nine numbers.
If we don't, we'll pick it up later or we'll talk about relationships differently. Yeah. You might hear mostly about relationships between fives and twos. I don't know. That could happen.
It could happen. Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
we'll try to be organized. It's hard when we talk about it in relationships to like go in order of the numbers, I think. But so maybe we should do it in the like talk about them in groups by like their stances. So like the withdrawing numbers, the compliant
Sure.
numbers. Yeah, maybe that will help us like not just like have to or we'll see. We'll see. Maybe that's even
Yeah.
too focused. We'll just see how this goes. But I was really thinking about this today while I was working on some different things about the relationships that I have in my life and to the point that you made, like when we opened, where you were talking about, as you do more of this kind of self awareness work or healing work or things like that, how it creates like a softness where maybe you didn't have that before. And I guess I was sort of thinking about that and like through the lens of the Enneagram, how when even if I don't know someone's type, but because I have this understanding of the Enneagram and the idea of these nine core motivations, that it allows me in most, not all, but in most cases to look at someone's behavior and where I maybe in the past would have been really annoyed or very triggered to have like a softness or like a different understanding of them, which then just ultimately makes the relationship better, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, maybe this is just my two coming out in that, but then you kind of you put things through a lens that isn't so much about you. It's more about them. So you're not like assigning your own value to how you're perceiving the relationship because I think that there's two different realities or experiences that happen within a relationship. It can be positive for different reasons or negative for different reasons, right?
Right. And I think coming off the holidays too, when I spent not a ton of time, but a little bit of time with my family and just that interaction, and it was more positive maybe than some holidays have been. There's a few reasons for that. One, as a five, I hosted. I planned this holiday to have minimal talking, which is like a very five thing to do, but it worked out really well. So I think a number of my family members are, well, at least a few of us are withdrawing numbers. It's not necessarily confirmed, but I have a pretty strong suspicion that one of my brothers is a nine. And well, I guess my stepdad, we think is a one. So that would be a compliant number. But we're like 50-50 on and other numbers because the three of them are my mom and my one brother are confirmed eights. My other brother is either a seven or an eight or an eight. So we have some assertive numbers in there too. But yeah,
God.
anyway, I think it just made for the interactions were just like very lighthearted and like all of that sort of thing. And I think some of that has been coming from this place of like I can one, I know how to set the boundary that makes the interaction work, and two, it's sort of allowing them to like show up in that space as themselves too and not get, you know, upset about my something my brother says or my sister-in-law or whatever.
Right. Right. I was so curious where you were gonna go with, like, how you planned something to have minimal talking. I'm like, "What?" Like, how does that?
How does that
'Cause
work?
well, the first thing I thought of when you said you were hosting, I'm like, if I wanna avoid something, I'm absolutely not hosting because then I have an out. I'm like, "Okay, I have to go," like, or we have to go. It's usually when my kids are there, right? So I'm like, "Oh, we gotta skedaddle for nap time," you know?
Yeah.
Like,
There are cases where the avoidant could be like, I don't want to host because then I have
then
a
you're
way out.
stuck. Yeah.
But sometimes, like for me, there's like a comfort in hosting that's a little bit different.
Oh,
That allow it like in my own space allows me to sort of show up
yeah.
how I want to show up. Whereas if I come into somebody else's space, sometimes I feel like I have to like fit into
Got it.
whatever the container is that they have planned or whatever the container is that they have an expectation for. Who knows? Maybe I need to unpack that with Brandon differently. But I also
So
think like so this was planned. It was a Christmas movie pajama party situation, which
okay.
meant for 2.5 hours there was a Christmas movie on and nobody talked. Right?
So
Like,
nice. What was
yeah,
the movie?
Spirited at the
Oh,
request of my nephews.
interesting. Okay.
So, yeah. Have you seen that?
I got I haven't seen that, no.
It's on Apple TV. It's Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. It's like
Oh, yes.
the Christmas Carol remake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. I watched The Family Stone, like, 3 times, like, while I was wrapping gifts at night, just on repeat. I love that movie.
We watched that.
Um,
Aaron and I watched that too. That was not part of the family Christmas. That was just Aaron and I.
I also kind of love like, it was extra emotional because Diane Keaton actually passed away
Yeah.
this year. It was very sad. Okay. That's interesting.
So I think, when we think about things in relationship too, I think there's also that like when you have your own self-awareness to understand like where the places that you're going to show up as your best self. Like so for
Yeah.
me that's hosting this sort of thing.
Yeah, there's definitely a comfort in that now that I think about we always host. So my dad and my stepmom come over with just us and then my grandparents, so my dad's parents to do like our quote unquote family Christmas. And we always host. So we cook dinner, we do like all the things. And I would agree, like I find myself to be a little bit more comfortable at home. Part of that is because my kids are just at an age where they're still like somewhat unpredictable. So it's just easier to be in our own environment where I know where like where things are. There's distractions. I can help put our attention elsewhere if something's going like I have my own safety net in that, but I also have like my own boundaries for like what we allow and what we don't allow. So like the amount of cookies that my oldest ate at my mom's house, like at an ungodly hour in the morning, was like insane. She's like, "Oh, it's Christmas. It's grandma's house." I'm like, "I know. I get it. I
Oh
just
yeah,
gotta let this one go."
yeah, I while I love to host, I'm sure my sister-in-law was like, "What the fuck?" Because part of the Christmas gifts for my nieces and nephews was Pop Rocks,
Oh,
the
I love
candy.
Pop Rocks. I
Yes.
still
And
love
so
Pop
they're
Rocks.
like downing Pop
And
Rocks
just
on the
a
couch during the
gallon
movie. Like
Pop Rock.
yeah, like and then we had sour Swedish or Scandinavian swimmers.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so there was that. Right, so there I'm sure that my sister-in-law was like, "Thank you so much for sugaring my children up
It's
before I have to
whatever.
take them home."
Honestly,
Yeah.
we just kind
But
of expect it. But yeah, what was I gonna say about that? I just lost my train of thought, I think. But yeah, I can see how there's comfort in your own space. I can see that.
Yeah. And it wouldn't surprise me in withdrawing numbers especially that they prefer that.
Sure.
But maybe
So
everyone
maybe
does. I don't know. Weigh in, if you have an
yeah.
opinion, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think about that in relationship in terms of family. I think in terms of my friends too. Before we started recording, you were giving some eight examples, and I was
Mhm.
thinking about eights that I have close relationships with when you were talking through that, and I was like, yeah, definitely. So I'll let you give like your full example again.
Totally. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a great example of how the Enneagram like created like this other awareness, this other way to think about that eight thing that some people are often taken aback by.
Well, it's so the example I was talking about was so for those of you who are new, my husband is an 8. And before I had this tool, I always took his like I call it excitability now. What I would have called it before is like anger, where like a voice gets raised, a posture, like his body posture changed. It always came off to me as like angry energy, but it's just like passion. It's not anger at all. So when then I would be like, "God, why are you so angry?" And he's like, "I'm not angry." He was legitimately not angry. He's just passionate. And he still does it to this day about things that like definitely are not him being angry, but to anyone walking by and not knowing him, like that excitability can get twisted sometimes. So like partnering that with his kind of like, yeah, I don't really care what you think of me energy, it like it could really come off the wrong way. But his core motivation is like like his protective nature comes so far through everything that's like this like justice of like I'm going to right the wrongs of the world, right? Comes through so hard in some of that stuff that if I didn't have this tool, it would be really, really hard for me to navigate as a 2, like, expressing my own feelings or, like, frustrations or anything else, which I would say, like, early on in our relationship was difficult because I also didn't know that about myself, right? Like, I didn't know that I wasn't expressing things until, like, I started having feelings about it, and I'm like, "Why am I so pissed off?" And it's because I'm not, like, stating my needs,
Right.
right? Like
Well, and in relationship, like for you, I don't want to speak for you, but in relationship with an eight, my mom is an eight. When you're in relationship, particularly like a close relationship like that with an eight, they
mhm,
can also be very overpowering. And so
very.
it can then be like, why, I don't feel that passionately about it, so they can just
Mhm,
that's fine. Like we'll
mhm,
just stay out of it or we'll just not go
mhm.
there or we'll just give in to that or all of
Yeah.
those different things can start to happen. And that's not necessarily what the eight is wanting in the relationship.
Mm,
But if that awareness is not there, like for both parties, it can just happen
mm,
kind of by default.
mhm. I would also say, like, so for him as an he's very playful, like, partner-wise with me, so that could read like sometimes it's sarcasm, sometimes it's, like, physical playfulness, like, he's touching me, like, as he's walking by or, like, he like, that's just kind of his energy. If you don't give that back, he genuinely is like, "What have I done?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Nothing." He's like, "Why are you being so weird?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm just existing. An overstimulated mom who doesn't wanna be touched right now and you're touching me."
I am not an overstimulated mom, but I also will have that where I'll be like, no. Like, nope.
Like, "Stop touching me. Why do you
Yeah.
always have to
Like,
touch me?" But no, it was like a legitimate social experiment. I'm not gonna rabbit hole on this for too long, but holiday break, kids are off for 2 weeks, and it was a legitimate social experiment that I would move to a different room in the house, different floor, and I could count, and within 30 seconds every time, either the dog, one of the kids, or my husband was in within 5 to 10 feet of me. We do not have a small house. Like,
No.
it's like a decent size house. There is no need for anyone to be next to me in the bathroom within 30 seconds.
You can't really
And just
blame
like
the dog
and it's like, "What are you
because my
doing?
dogs are like that, but
Like, what are you doing? What are you
yeah.
doing? Where are you?"
Yeah.
I have one other 8 story that I just learned about today, and it's an 8 that you and I both know. Particularly challenged with, like, a family dynamic, in a close family dynamic to her. So, her brother and her sister-in-law, and 2 very different lifestyles, right? Like, one way more religious, one not so religious, one like so religious that they like don't consume alcohol or like they just live a very different lifestyle than this 8, right? So 8 is hosting, okay, Christmas, and like in front of everyone, they are gifted a Bible and a crucifix.
Oh my.
And like this 8, right, like has her own set of beliefs, which are
Yep.
not like not wildly far off, but like does she want that to be the thing? No, she does not. So then she didn't know how to react in the moment, apparently, but she's like, "Oh, thank you." But then there was this whole explanation that happened where then all of a sudden her children are hearing the story of Jesus and how he died on the cross and he was tortured and like kind of all of these really brutal graphic details. Her children are very young. So, as you can imagine, this didn't land well. And if you think about an 8 and what they're ready for and what they're not ready for, especially with something like that, like you just don't go there. You just don't. So yeah, crazy.
Well, how did
Um
she react?
She didn't really in the moment because this was, like, very public. We're talking, like, everyone's opening a gift, right? But the reaction she had with me was, like,
What the actual?
explosive. What
Yeah.
the actual and how dare you? And goes as far as to say, like, "I will do this at some point. It doesn't make sense in my life right now." Like, you're and then there was a whole other situation where, like, the kids were gifted some sort of, like, screen type of activity. There was also, like, a comment made about, like, "Do you want your kids to have their brain rot in front of a screen, or do you want them to play outside?" Like, something to that effect. So it was, like, a slight at her parenting is how she took it. And anyone who has kids, like, rule number 1 of parenting is just, like, you don't judge. We are all in the fucking trenches here. You just don't judge. Is it a choice that she wants to make? Like, if you do or if you don't, just nah, just don't. So, as you can imagine, she not only is seeing something that she's not ready for, right? Not ready. It's also, like, relatively vulnerable. Like, that's a pretty deep life choice, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's, like, a really interesting, like, dynamic to throw in to that kind of a setting, but also the right versus wrong that's going on in her head of, like, not just how she's feeling from a legitimate, like, religious perspective, but from the, like, "Did you really just gift me this? Like, this is your like, this is what happened?"
I have all kinds of feelings for her.
Like, she saw red, and I don't
Oh,
blame her
a
at all.
100%. 100%. I am actually impressed that she did not say anything. And maybe if I were talking with her, would have encouraged her to like let a little bit of the reaction out. Right? Because that is a boundary that's getting crossed. And I am not against anybody who wants to believe whatever they want to believe. I don't
Yeah,
care at all. And it's funny that even religion would come up on this, and this is an actual rabbit hole, but I was listening to somebody on TikTok today who was talking about the concept of God and how it's taught in like religion and whatever.
sure,
And the road manager for AC/DC, he learned this from, and he's like, God is like the way that we describe like the blanket that is like wrapped around all of us or something like that. And it was like this very like warm thing. Like it's this idea of we're trying to make this intangible thing tangible,
sure,
right? And like that's what religion is. And he's like, we just don't teach it very well in the world. And I feel like I should have learned this, in church, not from the road manager for
sure.
ACDC. But like some of it's just like that's like a line you just don't walk
You
into
just
somebody's
don't.
house. It's the same. Like why do we all I'm going to pick on a religion for just a second, but why does the Jehovah's Witness knocking on your door make every person in the world super uncomfortable?
Right,
Right? It's the
right,
same idea. Like just
right, right. So I was also shocked that she didn't say anything in the moment. I think, like, I felt bad for her because it's like, this is all being thrust upon you. Your kids are right there. There's not a absolute clear cut window of opportunity where you can like respectfully have a disagreement, right? I think that I may have like thought about doing it later, like as a hey, like I don't really know what your intent was. I need you to know, like, no, no, thank
right.
you. Because, like, the other thing that it seemed like when she was telling me about it is she felt judged.
Right. Which oof, that's a trigger for I think any number, but I definitely think eights.
She
Eights,
felt like she was being
ones, yeah.
judged for how she lives her life or how she parents her kids. Like, I think that's what she might see when she, like, sees this person. And so that was another, like, really good example. But if you think about the relationship that then that person now has with her, it's either like you just lack extreme self-awareness, like self-awareness is like at an all-time low, or because it's like that, it's the rule, right? Like where if you're at, and sometimes even family events, like you don't bring up money, politics, or religion. Like those are the three
Nope.
things, right? Especially if you're not looking for a debate or an argument or a disagreement or whatever. And I think that's the other contentious point with her is she's like, she didn't say this, but I perceive it this way, is like it was not a safe space to debate or disagree on, right? Which like imagine an 8 like harnessing all of that and not saying anything. I could see it because I live with it every day. Like
Yeah.
my husband would have opened that and been like, what am I gonna do with this?
I have an 8 friend who got I can imagine in that situation would open the gift and he would have been like, "Oh damn, it's burning my hands." Like, like he would have made like a joke about it. This it was like wildly like I'm going to hell,
Yeah.
so just keep
Yeah.
that.
Oh my God, you're trying to save me. Thank you. Oh,
Right.
God.
Oh. Well, I mean,
So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, we can spin that any different way in terms of that specific situation, but I do think about that too and this goes back to what I said before about where like most of the time the Enneagram can really help me, but there are times where even if you have the awareness of yourself and the awareness of others, like things can come up and you can be like, "Nah, I'm just going to go ahead and like not be the healing person right now. And I'm going to go ahead and be pissed off about that." Or I'm going to decide like
yeah,
almost intentionally read it wrong.
right.
We'll like work our way back to like assuming positive intent, but in this
Yeah.
moment, I'm not ready.
Well, that's a good point because that's okay too sometimes, right? That
Yeah.
has a time and a place. It reminds me of though, I think it's like deep connections for me are the people who I posted it to my Instagram the other day. It's like, I love being a woman because I could text my best friend the most unhinged shit and she'll be like, no, that makes perfect sense. The people that I have closest to, I can be like, hear me out. Like, what the fuck? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, you're so right. It's like a timing thing because those are also the same people that, like, if they see a door, like even a tiny crack of that door that's open for them to be like, oh, yeah, are you sure? They know when they can step through that crack in the door or when you
Right.
gotta leave that shit shut.
Or maybe there's times where they just like kick that thing wide open.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've done that to you a few times where I've been like, nope, just gonna like bust that sucker open.
You do this thing with your head and you're like, "Come on." I'm like, "Fuck, I know. God."
Everybody has it. So I'm for me personally, and we've talked about this before, and I think it is tied to the fact that my stepdad is a one. In relationships, that's a place where I often struggle is with the one energy. And so when I think about that in terms of relationships I have with people outside of family who are ones, I do have to put a little bit more of the like rose-colored lens on and be like, no, no, they are not they are not trying to perfect my research paper, right? Like there is sometimes like a little thing where I have to talk myself out of sometimes how they call things out or approach things. Other times I will
Their mouth isn't the red pen.
correct.
Like, everything
Correct.
that comes out.
And I'll say other times I can very much appreciate them because they catch the things that I miss and I can love them in like for that, right?
Mhm.
Like when it's hard to articulate exactly, but I don't know how I mean, you have a pretty strong one wing and that's in your tri type as well.
My one energy is usually very inward, though. Like, it's not usually very like, it's the self-talk that turns into an action of good example. I think a lot of people, not just parents, are going through, like, when you get the holiday gifts, your house just feels it's closing in on you. Like, there's so much shit that's just, like, everywhere. Like I said, I have a gecko plugged into a damn wall. Like, it's wild. There's just shit everywhere. And the story that I tell myself, if the very next day we don't get all of that cleaned up and taken care of, is that I'm gonna be super impatient, I'm gonna be a bad mom, I can't imagine what anybody else's house looks like, but, like, I can't. And, like, I almost, like, ramp myself up to make it feel, like, worse, and it's not better until everything is done perfectly.
I think that is a good point in terms of the inward part of the one energy. The self-preservation one does not have the same impact on me as a social one or a one-to-one one. So that is a good point about that part. In terms of for you and like your desire to like perfect something and we've talked about this before, there's like a fine line for you between what's one and what's eight.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
some of it
Yeah.
sounds a little bit like eight
It's
as
control.
well.
It's
It's control. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's what I can tie my 1 to closest right now. I would probably tell you that, like, maybe 10-ish years ago, I was more 1 wing than 3 wing.
Early in your
Um,
career.
yeah, like, everything had to be perfect. I could not make a mistake, and if I made a mistake, I was so hard on myself. So hard on myself. Yeah, but that's
Think,
kind of
yeah.
it's more of either that or, like, kids kind of changed that in me a little bit. Like, this is some shit that you just can't perfect.
Well, and I think when we're doing this work with a tool like the Enneagram, too, it also can like show you sort of the humanness in other people too, and like everybody's got their thing and maybe it's not worth it. Like maybe you're able to like now it's not just softening the one, but maybe you're able to like stretch into seven, let's say,
Yeah.
in some of that energy
Yeah.
where it's like, it's okay. We're gonna be fine. We're all fine.
I think for me, with ones, since starting to do this work, I'm not so triggered by them because my oldest kid is at an age where, like, now, like, he was showing some of those tendencies and still does. Like, if he doesn't get it perfect the first time, like, he's so hard on himself and he's so sad. So whenever I see a one, like, I picture this, like, kid that just is, like, so hard on themselves, and it, like, breaks my heart because, like, just, like, give yourself a break.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break. So, but I didn't realize that until, like, I started this work and having a kid who, like, outwardly shows those tendencies. I just have, like, a little bit more even for the one-to-one ones that show up very, like, 8,
Great.
I see this, like, little person in there that's, like, been so hard on themselves or other people have been so hard on them that they feel this, like, intense drive to, like, just do it perfectly the first time, and they're so mean to themselves.
Yeah. As you were saying that, this is a definite rabbit hole and this is a podcast topic for another day because we're gonna run out of time. But it would be interesting to think about generational Enneagram types. Because I do wonder, like, when we think about how, like, generational stuff moves through families, you want a more romantic way to say it, family traditions, whatever.
Mhm.
But when, like, a
Mhm.
family has, like, a whole bunch of similar, like, behaviors, or, we always parent like, the sort of discipline is the same, like because that's how my parents treated me and that's how I blah blah blah, right? I'd be curious, like if there was a generation where there were more ones because of the expectations of that generation on their kids. You know what I mean?
I'm sure. I mean, the couple of older family members that I know for sure on my end are 6
Because of like the depression and yeah,
because of, like,
or the Cold
even the
War maybe.
70s, like, they talk about the 70s sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
that's a
be
topic for another day, but that would be interesting.
that would be interesting. I would say so from a 2
Yeah.
perspective, my core motivation is to be helpful and to be needed and not be abandoned. So for me in relationships, I tend to gravitate towards certain numbers, which is interesting, not intentionally. It's just like I gravitate towards fives, I gravitate towards eights, some threes, and other twos because it's familiar, I
Yeah.
think. But I find like those are my deepest relationships that I have, which is interesting.
Yeah. I
I
do
have
think there is something to
also,
that too. Like
yeah,
that you're gravitate one
yeah,
towards a number that you're familiar with, but then also like there are certain numbers that just seem like they're easier to go deeper with. I see that pattern too.
yeah. It's just more natural to go deeper with. It's
Yeah.
not that I don't have deep relation. I have deep relationship with a 6. My sister is a 9. I have very deep relationship with my sister, but she, yeah, is like, I mean, she understands, and again, to your point, we have to do this another time, but, like, for her to be a 9 and me to be a 2 is really interesting. So we
Sibling
should
thing would be
yeah,
super interesting. Yeah.
we should do a sibling thing, but I think the energy feels safest with 5s and 8s, usually, for me, and I say that because, like, I am, like, a high empath, so, like, the first thing I can pick up from a person is, like, a vibe. Like, I can sense that. And with fives, it's like, I don't like, I can't really explain it. It's you and another five. I feel like I can see into your brain a lot of times.
Oh crap, that's terrifying.
She says it to me. She said it to me today. I talked to her today. And I like said the thing before she said it. And she's like, I hate it when you do that. So
Uh,
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I did read. I want to talk about the 8 with a 2 for a second because a long time ago I sent this to you. There's this like theory around, and it wasn't even about Enneagrams, but it was more so about like the helper marries the protector or has like intimate relationships with the protector.
yeah.
So that made a lot of sense for my relationship with my husband as an 8. But it's that energy, it's that like protective, strong energy that I just like instinctually gravitate towards.
What you made me think of when you talked about it being eights and fives, because I have a similar thing. I have a lot of twos that I'm close to and a lot of eights that I'm close to. So it's the same
Yeah.
group of three numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it made me think of I sent this to you a long time ago and I was like, I need to like better understand this theory. But it was oh, sorry. Why is it stop playing songs? It was the that eights, twos, and fives relate to the world through connection, but they all do it in a different
Interesting.
way. And it's I don't, this is like a theory that, like, I think there's some work being done about like how it's like another group of it's another triad within the Enneagram or whatever, but it is sort of that idea, right? That in their, all of these numbers are trying to avoid rejection in their own way. So yeah, that's interesting for you too, to like make that tie in your relationships. There's like a whole rabbit hole we could go on here, and we are definitely running out of time. And we actually did not make it through all nine numbers. So we'll have to come back to this, but that might be a whole good to like go through those triads because this one nines, three, sixes, and nines all relate to the world through attachment. And ones, fours, and sevens do it through idealizing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that would be, we'll have to do that as a topic. We'll put that on the
Yeah.
list. Yeah.
Let's do that. We didn't make it through all 9 numbers, but we'll revisit the numbers we didn't get to.
We'll come back. We'll talk more about relationships. I think our next podcast though, we're going to have a guest. So that should be exciting.
How exciting.
Yes.
I'm very excited for this guest. I
Yes.
haven't gotten to meet her, and I wanted to meet her for a very long time.
Yes. She has said to me a couple of times that she feels like she needs to know you. So
I'm very
it'll be good.
excited.
We're excited about that. So that's a little teaser for next episode. But yeah, as always, if you found this interesting, entertaining, you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, follow, share, all of that. Leave us a review. Those things really help us. We're on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So, anything you want to add?
Amazing. No, this was fun. This is a
This
good
was
one.
fun. Welcome to 2026, guys. We made it. We survived 2025.
Let's do the damn thing.
Yeah. Very cool. I'll talk to you later, Tammy.
Bye.
Bye.